Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I am Reti4, this is Greyjoy91,
Hey guys.
this is Antoine Bandelay,
Be water, my friends.
and returning to us at last, Turk McGurk.
Greetings, my good hotman.
Matt, take us away with how we're doing this today.
Okay, so today we're covering Book 1, Episodes 19 and 20, The Siege of the North, Part 1 and 2, which is the Season 1 finale, or Book 1 finale, whatever. Anyway, so this is, it's the Siege of the North. This is when Zhao comes to ruin everyone's day and try to, destroy the moon and promote the Fire Nation and sort of whatever. Cement his chapter in the Book of History. That's kind of what this is, So take us into it.
So we start off with, which I actually like, the underwater shot of the Northern Water Tribe. I thought that actually was really nice. And I actually thought the animation was pretty good in this episode. I actually like there's a lot of rack focusing that was going on that doesn't often happen within animation, or kind of is overlooked in animation. And rack focusing is just when one thing's out of focus and one thing's in focus, and then they go in between focus points. They do that quite a lot in this episode, which gives a more it gives more space to the shot.
Depth,
yeah.
Depth of
So
field.
so that I enjoyed a lot. I don't know about, again, I'm still, like I said in the previous episode, about the whole Aang kind of reverting back in his mastery of water, and then like Katara making a huge leap forward. I still don't buy that in this episode.
Do we have any idea how long? Because like Paku's all excellent, Katara, you've progressed faster than anybody ever. But like, do we have any idea how long
It's
they've
just the
been
next
there at
day.
this point?
It feels like it's just a few days. It can't be more than a few days, but it should be
It should
at
be
least like
a couple
a month.
months. Yeah.
I would say like a month or two would be the best way for them to sort of frame that, but we genuinely don't know. It could be the next day for all we
I
know.
mean, it could be a month if you want to say that. It took Zhao that long to get all the fleet together, because it does take a while to get all that together.
It would realistically take at least that long to marshal a fleet of that size. I mean, just the time it would take for all the ships to arrive, deployed to him alone. But you said about the first shot with the water coming out. I loved that first shot. It was a nice kind of introduction to it, especially given the fact that it's the water tribe. It makes perfect sense. Thematically.
And then this is Book 1 water. So
Yeah, of course. But I disagree about the animation though, because while I agree with the nice effect of the rack spacing, the actual animation quality in this episode, at least the first part, to me, I thought was far below the standard of Avatar. I mean, to the point where the faces of, especially in the early parts of the episode, the facial expression seemed like it was an entirely different cartoon style to me, almost. It felt far below what we've seen previously. It was very jarring and surprising looking back on this now. Am I the only one who saw that, or...?
I know. I saw a little bit of it too, and I actually watched it last night before bed, and I noticed that too. I was like, "Huh, the animation's a little off." And I always just it goes back to it's season 1. They didn't have as much money, or Nickelodeon didn't care as much.
It seems like they must have done this particular episode earlier in the kind of production line, just because of how different it was in terms of quality from some of the other episodes.
Well, it is a different company. It's the DR movie that's doing it versus JM Animation, who did Waterbending Master, and then the second part of the.
I was right. So it
different
is
companies.
It's two different animation studios,
lot
because
of
they work on these things simultaneously. So they outsource to different companies.
It happens really often in animation, so even like in anime, it's pretty common. But I think, isn't Avatar mostly done by Korean artists?
It is, yes. I think it was a poor choice to have them be split between a 2-part episode then, because it is distinctly jarring seeing them kind of switch over.
I agree with that, because I don't think you notice it too much when like the stories aren't taking place in the same location with the same group of characters. For me, the most notable thing was sort of the lighting. Like the colors look sort of muted in this first part. Everything looks a little flat to me compared to the second part. The second part has much more depth visually for me.
Funny that you mentioned that, because DR movie did the first 2-parter with the Winter Solstice, both of the parts, which was the first time that happened back to back. But then for some reason, I guess budget or scheduling, it couldn't work. For the finale.
It doesn't help as well.
We
You
know
said some of the colors are quite flat, because it's the Northern Water Tribe, and everything's so one note in the coloration, with everything being made out of the snow and the ice. It's the worst possible location to have this problem, which makes it stand out even more. And again, it's all fine. It's not like this is the worst animation ever. Of course, it's just because it's Avatar. Because the episodes we've had directly before this, it just does stand out a bit more. That's all.
And then also with the whole time period thing that we're talking about, it also makes sense for Sokka and Yue, who, when we get to their scene, we see that they're all jolly and everything. But again, I think that also needed more time as well. Like that would have benefited from at least. And if someone could easily mention, that it's been a few weeks. I mean, because right now we have to assume it's like a few days because but someone in the dialogue could just easily say, I've been training for, a month or something. And then we can also surmise that, okay, that's how long it's taking for Zhao to build up the fleet, which also makes sense. It's not like, oh no, but he wouldn't take that long to get over there. But yeah, it takes a while to assemble all those people and create a battle plan.
I feel comfortable saying at least a month. Probably longer than that, but at least a month I think is a safe bet that everyone can agree with just the kind of the presentation from what we've seen thus far, and particularly the fleet. The fleet is the big thing. You can say, oh well, they learnt in like a week with the mastery of the bending. Sure, fine, but the fleet needs time. That's just how that works.
Especially during that time period, you wouldn't have instant communication.
I mean, the communication alone would,
they still communicate by bird. So I mean, whatever, yeah.
Bad hockey.
But yeah, Sokka takes Yui flying.
Yeah.
On Appa, which I mean, of course he does, because why wouldn't you? I love the smooth suavity of his yip. It's like yip.
Yep. Yeah.
And I loved as well the harsh transition into the Ashfall, because I love that idea for the kind of harbinger of the Fire Nation.
The impending doom,
I love it.
Great.
Really thematically powerful.
And it's something that Sokka recognizes being from the Water Tribe. They do it in the first episode, actually, don't they? Zuko?
Do they do it in the first episode?
If it's not
second, one of the two.
That's what I meant. Sorry, the first little two-parter in the book. Because I don't remember.
What I mean is, are you talking about when Zuko showed up, or
Boy in the Ice?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't two-parter, but technically it's directly linked to the story.
Oh,
it wasn't
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a nice visual as well because again, the Fire Nation is highly industrialized, and you're up in this icy purity, up there in the North Pole, and you have this soot coming in, and just it's already just thematically powerful, on that level.
And then next we have it's okay. We have Zhao and Iroh speaking about Zhao gloating about what this is going to mean for him, and how he always kind of slaps Iroh in the face too about bringing up Ba Sing Se again, which is that's a touchy subject for him. Not just that he got defeated as a military general or whatever, but that he lost his son there. So for him to bring that up and be this won't be like your failure at Ba Sing Se, General Iroh.
Yeah, he's such a dick
asshole
about it. Yeah.
Shouldn't come as a surprise now at this point.
Especially when you wanted him on your team too. Especially when you're I'd be honored to have you. It seems why would you be honored to have him and then also ridicule him at the same time?
Iroh doesn't know that Iroh knows, but it's oh yeah, that nephew of yours that I just killed. Because in his head, he's just Zuko. Dude, you are just an asshat.
It's just his ego. He needs to kind of keep his sense of superiority over Iroh, even though he does respect him and want his counsel. He has to keep, I'm the guy in charge, and I have to keep putting people down to make sure that stays the case. Yeah.
Does he know about Iroh's son, or does he just view him as a failure because he abandoned the siege at Ba Sing Se?
I mean,
everybody would have known about that.
Yeah, it's kind of common knowledge.
That's a pretty big thing.
That's why he kind of not lost, but gave up the throne, really, wasn't it? Why it was
no, he didn't give up the throne.
It was swooped from under him anyway, but that was why it was.
Well, it was taken from him, and he didn't care that it was taken from him.
Because of the whole loss of his son. Well, largely because of him. I imagine it would be common knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the ending of Sokka and Yue, which is she's I can't do this even though I like you too much, or I specifically can't. I think she even goes I can't be your friend, or we can't see each other period because I like you too much.
And it's too confusing.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
I'm oh my god.
there are a few moments throughout both these parts where Yue specifically will just do something completely random or out of the blue or really poorly timed. Why are you stopping in the middle of this battle prep right now to have this conversation? This is not important. It seems very out of place and just kind of wait, stop what you're doing right now. I have to mention this. We can't see each other anymore. It's that hand on forehead kind of thing. There's a more kind of jarring instance later, but
pressing matter.
But this one as well stood out to me. It was this doesn't need to happen right now.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, you would think for sure, like if she's, her priority is her people, the safety of her people, there are far pressing, more pressing matters at hand than turning around and telling Sokka, look, we can't see each other. What?
Yeah,
why the Fire Nation's here?
Right
What the?
It's weird. This didn't even occur to me. That scene just played, and I was like, whatever. You guys all had issues with it. Okay, that's interesting.
And then they assemble for battle, and then Sokka gets his war paint, which I liked. I like this war paint. And then I'm also calling to the spirits of the moon and the ocean, which becomes very important later on. But just right now, it's just kind of like a setting type situation.
It does
but
set that up,
has plot relevance later.
That guy's speech was the most uninspiring thing I've ever heard in my life, though. It's like, most of you are going to die, and some of these faces are going to be gone. But
that's true.
but I'm going to send anyone want to come? Because most of you are going to die. He keeps reiterating the point. It's not like this somber note. It's just constantly, most of us are going to be gone right now.
I think it's kind of well done. I thought it was well voiced, and actually the faces that are highlighted do leave. It shows Yue and even Paku. He doesn't die, but he leaves the tribe at the end. Like he sails to the south.
So.
It's sort of like kind of subtle foreshadowing.
Yeah. But it just the speech itself wasn't quite as rousing as I would hope that the leader of his people. The final hour where we fight for our very survival and many of us will be gone. It didn't.
I don't think you open with "you will die." It's more like you will fight. Like you will defend our home, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And if you have to give your life for that situation, that's something to die for. But not necessarily just saying outright, you know what, if you guys join us, you will die, or some of you, it's very likely. Like, don't open with that. Like, it shouldn't be about you dying, but just the fact that you are, defending, and that could happen as a result.
Yeah, I can see what it was going for and what the writers were trying for, but to me, it just felt like they didn't quite hit the right note on this one. But you're right, Matt. It was well voiced, and I do like the kind of the visual framing of it. It was nice set up in that regard.
I kind of like this scene, but whatever, it's cool.
Yeah.
And then the battle actually happens, and we have Aang facing off against one ship, which takes a little bit of effort. I mean, he does it, and he does it very well. He doesn't really take any hits, but then it's still like he's like, oh man, there's like 40 or 50 more of them out there.
I think he says like, I'm just one kid.
Yeah.
Go back from him, and you're like, yeah, he is a kid though. You're like, there's a lot of weight to be put on this kid's shoulders.
He's a 12-year-old kid. He's only been the Avatar for like, I don't know how many months,
I like the kind of bookending of this little section as well, because it opens with him saying, I wasn't there before to help my own people. I'm going to make a difference this time. You then get that little action scene where he sort of does, but then has the soul-crushing sight of the entire fleet on the horizon. Then we get him returning and saying, you have to do it. You're the Avatar, and I'm just one kid. It is that kind of small little mini part of the episode devoted just to that kind of burden that he has to carry, and I like how they kind of focus on that without taking away from the rest of the plot. Kind of mini aside.
I want to say before that though, because that's sort of like after he comes back, like during the actual action sequence, it's one of the most terrifying things ever. Like a guy is like picked up by Appa, like, and like the look on Appa's face is it's kind of frightening. Like I don't know. It's weird, the contrast. Yeah.
In the sea.
To be picked up by one of those things and like thrown into the ocean.
Hope you can swim.
Yeah, and you're right. Just the face alone is like, please don't eat me. It's like thrown into the water. Merciful.
And then we have the Sokka meets the UA's groom to be. What's this guy's name again? I forget the kid's name.
Betrothed, Han, I think.
Han. Okay, yeah. And I like the little sequence they had about it doesn't really matter at all. Actually, does he die? By the way, again, I know this is the thing I've been talking about all the time. I'm like,
it wasn't really clear.
I hope he does. I hope he did. Look,
no,
I hope he did.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
he's just chucked or thrown into some water.
Yeah, but it's freezing. It's freezing water though, and he is no bender clearly,
and
so he could very easily be dead.
Go ahead.
No. I love how, I mean, even before he goes, even before he gets thrown into the water, I don't know if we've gotten there yet, but his whole interaction with Sokka.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. He has he's like, oh yeah, we've had this armor that we're gonna use to infiltrate, and I like that they thought about, oh yeah, their armor would update over time, and then they're like, it's like 100 years old, and he's like 85.
He's like 85.
I love the way he delivers that line as well. It's like, wait, what? Is this a thing? It's 85 years ago.
Well, it's sort of like a kid, like when a kid tries to outsmart something, and then they run into like a big problem they hadn't like figured out. Only the whole tribe did that, so it's sort of juvenile and funny.
Yeah.
It's like because the chief was totally on board with that plan until Sokka was like, no, you know.
Yeah, it's
You
amusing.
guys killed.
And you're right, Antoine. I love the fact that they did think about the fact that they would have updated their armor. And it's a small detail, but it helps sell the whole realism of the cultures and the time having passed and the world developing. And it also makes sense because the Northern Water Tribe, as we've said before, is extremely isolated from the rest of the world. It's a double-edged sword. It's the greatest defense, but.
It's okay when you make that joke, isolated. No, okay. But yeah, no, I mean, it also implies that like they haven't been attacked or like they haven't dealt with the war in 85 years. Like the Fire Nation sent people up there and got stomped or whatever, and then left and just didn't go back until now. So yeah.
Which is like the, no pun intended, but the polar opposite.
Oh my God.
It's just coming out of left, right, and centre now. But yeah, you're right. It's a double-edged sword. Yes, they've got that impenetrable defense of being unassailable, but they're also completely out of the war. They can't, take the initiative and go on the offense and help their allies. They're just isolated up at the top.
What are you doing with these puns? Stop it. Like, all right.
So then the fleet stops attacking because, as Iroh says, he's like, hey, during nighttime, there's like full moon. They're going to be more powerful. And that's actually the first time we get indication of like the boost that waterbenders get, with the moon, which comes up even more so in book 3. So they stop, and that's when we get Iroh's scene with Zuko, where Zuko is finally going to be able to go on his mission to capture the Avatar incognito, because the battle is going to cease. And I don't really have much else to say about that.
It's a touching scene. Yeah, it's a touching scene.
Yes, exactly. This is the first time that Iroh. I mean, not the first time, but he's like, you're like my own. You know what I mean? Like I
think it is the first time that we hear about his son.
Right.
Like I know we've been talking about it, like in this episode even, but in other episodes. But this is the first time the show spells that out for us.
Right. That's true. It's true.
Ever since I lost my son, And it's like like you said.
He's like, don't say it.
Yeah. It is a really touching scene because, especially knowing everything that's to come, that's basically like Zuko's father figure. It's his uncle.
And he's not fully comfortable with that
yet,
but he still appreciates it. And he's like the awkward hug, whereas Iroh just jumps forward and just hugs him because he's worried for him. And he's I only nag because I care. And just talking about the simple things, I like how it's just a case of stay warm, use your breath, keep the hood up, keep your ears warm. So it's just simple worrying things that he's trying to do to help him in every little way that he can. It's a nice touching scene.
That's another small thing that I appreciate is that they do change attire when they're up here and it's fucking cold.
Yes,
like they're not just in their like most cartoons don't do that. Like they're just this is my outfit and I would wear it everywhere. I like that Zuko's wearing.
Except for Aang. I mean, Aang doesn't change his outfit until like book 3. But he's supposed to wear that. Isn't that like a religious thing that he's supposed to keep it on?
I think it's explained in like an Avatar Extras things that like airbenders, they bend the air around them like to acclimate to whatever environment they're in. Because he never changes. He's always comfortable wherever he is. He's never too hot or cold. I think they're like impervious to that through their bending.
That's how I always imagined it, even if it isn't the case. Just
the
idea that he kind of manipulates the air around to keep himself warm if he needs to. I like it. And again, the same sort of thing as Zuko's with his breath. I like how they implemented that on a more survival level, just general. I'm going to breathe fire to keep myself warm, and it's a useful skill.
Oh yes, yeah. I love that too because Iroh talks about that when he's first training Zuko in the early episodes of the season. It's not about the power; it's about like the breath and
your control of that.
Yeah, on the ship in the beginning. So
yeah, right before he's about to fight Zhao, I believe. Or actually, no, I think it's just during one of his like exercises. But
like the first time I think you see him, one of the first times you see him, if not the first time, you see him training Zuko, and Zuko's being like really impatient about it and kind of a little prick about it.
It's great that you see Zuko actually learn from all that stuff and actually enact it. Because as he says later on, this is actually in episode 2 or part 2. Where he mentioned he brings up Azula for the first time and she's naturally good at everything. He's like, I have to work. That's the reason why Zuko's my favorite character because he always just has to work for everything that he gets. He's always struggling.
Struggle and fight, and that's made me strong. That's what he says.
Yeah,
it's just and then he talks about he says one of my favorite lines, and he says ever, which is his father saying, Zula, she was born lucky. I was lucky. He says I was lucky to be born, which is just like, it's like. his cornerstone, like the thing that he grew up with, like believing about himself, and it's actually what keeps him from being, great.
Yeah, and even what he's doing right now, like he's against the Fire Nation right now. Like he's doing something that is outside of what is Zhao's orders. They think he's dead, so he has to do this all incognito. He has to swim through however many yards or miles he has to swim through, with all these other
freezing water.
Yeah, and he's struggling throughout.
There's also the implausibility of it. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It's like this is like a near impossible task that he has to do, but he still does it. Like, he's not just swimming, like he's climbing through frozen tunnels,
right.
Like with water pouring at him and he can't breathe. That's ridiculous.
And he's already like beat to hell because he basically got blown up, and there's actually like a physical indication there. He's like all bruised and cut and
it can't be that long that they've been at the tribe then, because he's still bruised from that.
That's true. Yeah, that's our 1 month thing.
Oh, damn, that's
You're
true.
right.
Wow, so I figured something was going to happen.
3 weeks.
It's like a day then.
That brings it back to like 3 weeks, like maximum.
Yeah,
maximum. If the bruising
because I don't think
there.
his face is not going to be. Yeah, he's not going to be healed. That quickly.
But still, we mentioned it last episode that the scar, well, not scarring, but the marks remained, and I like that they persisted throughout the finale because one, obviously it's just realistic, but also it kind of helps then gravitas to the returning confrontation we'll get to later with Zhao. It helps kind of remind you that this isn't so long ago that Zhao did what he did. Adds a bit more impact to the situation. But that's further on ahead. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Where are we up to? He gets into the caves. He breaks out using these firebending, but there's other stuff going along in parallel to that.
Yeah, well, right now, the Han versus Sokka's going on because he realizes that he's going to marry Yue, and they have a little scuffle, and then he's taken off the mission. Like immediately, he's like, "You're off the mission," and then he's like, "But you can protect my daughter, though."
Yeah, it was another one of those weird, jarring moments. He walks in the room, says, "Sokka, you're off the mission," and then leaves. It's just like, okay,
that's weird. Yeah, because he could have easily explained what he was on about, but he didn't. He's like, I need to artificially create tension and drama where none needs to be right now. So just pretend that I don't like you. But also the ironic thing is that Han calls Sokka Sokka, which they spent the entire movie doing. Even though in this episode he goes, "It's Sokka," like he corrects him.
Yeah.
I always think about that. You're talking about the movie, right? The movie we don't talk about.
Well, I talk about it. Yeah. We're gonna talk about it.
Always. I always think about that very moment in the cartoon.
Just so crazy to me that they called this mistake out before it was made on the big screen. But anyway, and that's at that point we cut back to Zuko, right, where he actually infiltrates the city. Like that's the part where like he gets stuck under the ice and like he heats up his palms and like sort of rises through like the ice cave, right?
Indeed, yeah. We get that. He arrives and kind of brings himself out into the tunnel. And I like even the small moment where you have him sort of sat in that tunnel and then pull himself up and taking that moment of
needs
rest.
To be. Yeah, you would be exhausted. Like I wouldn't have made it. Like if I was sorry, Dad, I'm never coming home.
I would have felt
I would have died in the water.
I'm exiled. Whatever.
Well, you would have been fine. You would have been a waterbender anyway, wouldn't you? So you just propel yourself through.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't have been exiled.
It's an important moment, and it's again, it's all about building up that gravitas and the impact of everything that's happening. If he just got up and then sort of immediately started walking down the street, you just I guess this nothing matters then. It lends weight, physical weight to what's happening on screen.
Yeah. And just the fact that he was able to do that, it's not like there's a map of the place showing you how to get there. Like he had to figure that all out, like by intuition. Yeah, really cool.
Even following the the turtle seals or whatever they were. The idea that sparks. Oh, they have to be coming up somewhere. That small things like that. It's cool to see his kind of intuition and his forward thinking.
Mm-hmm. But the commonalities he has with Azula when he puts his mind to something.
Yes. Yeah. But the other thing as well is running along parallel to this is we get the first explanation of the moon spirit. Yue is talking to Katara and Aang on the balcony.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Remind me of this scene. I thought she just showed him to like the spirit place because like Aang needed help or whatever. Like she told the story of the moon spirit this time, or was that later?
The full story of the moon spirit was later, but she brings up the idea of it. And Aang says, "Oh, we can get information from the spirits," and then that's when she leads them to the spirit.
Oh, okay. Which is like they're like, maybe you get wisdom, and he's like, or maybe they'll unleash a crazy and spirit attack. Which is like, which one happened? Which one happened?
Yeah. Which both kind of do, and which both kind of make sense because that's kind of what they both do on their both ends of the dichotomy. You know, with the white koi being, which I forget the name of the two.
Twee and La.
Twee and La.
Twee and La. Is Twee the white one? The
white spot? La's the moon. Twee is the ocean, right? Or is it the other way around? I thought it was the other way around. It's the other way around. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and they both have that balance between each other, but also they do have the idea of the push and pull, which will come up later in part 2, like in a big way.
Oh yeah. But yeah, UA leads them to the spirit pond and the little oasis and the very
beautiful
top of the
location.
Pole. Yes, definitely. Yeah,
beautiful location.
And just the idea alone is lovely. You know, this kind of pocket of life in this otherwise barren, not wasteland, but effectively, barren area. And Aang's reaction to grass.
Icy tundra.
Yeah, icy tundra. And Aang's reaction to the grass, he's like, I never thought I'd miss grass so much. And it's a valid point.
And this time, like, for the first time, I thought, that might have been, like, different when it came to, like, house hunting with Aang and Katara married. Like, we are not living in the ice, because he clearly doesn't like that. I never thought about that before.
Yeah, it's a good point. Where would the cultural crosses in general? Like how would they choose their home?
I think they were probably separate too, because I mean, this is probably his whole separate Legend Korra conversation. But he seemed like he was in Republic City most of the time, and she stayed south because even during the Yakone stuff, she was gone and he was there. So they could have lived separately for a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's true. She had to be separated because she was a bloodbender, and they couldn't have that disrupting the plot. So yeah, it would. It makes sense.
So Aang does when he finally sees the moon and ocean spirit, he goes into Avatar. Well, not really Avatar state, but more spiritual, passive.
He enters the spirit world. Yeah.
He enters the spirit world, which is why he looks like he goes into Avatar state, but he doesn't. And that's when Yue and Katara talk, and Katara's like, "I can protect him. I'm his friend." And then Zuko's like, "I'm here now, and I'll take him," or whatever. And then they have their fight, which is a cool fight. I actually like that. It's one of my favorite fights. Probably book one.
Where they're talking really loudly, and Aang's like, "How about some quiet?"
Oh yeah, that too, because he was trying to concentrate. Right?
Yeah. That's a funny part.
It's like, how can we help him? It's like, maybe he's in peace and quiet. But yeah, the fight's interesting because it's one of my favorites as well, and really, it's not really much is happening. It's kind of just a few blasts of water and ice, respectively. But because of the kind of drama involved and the tension, it elevates it beyond what it otherwise would be. And I particularly enjoy Zuko's kind of recognition of Katara's growth. He's saying, you've learned a new trick. Yeah, you peasant, you've learned a new trick. And then when she goes full on, water prison jutsu, he recognizes the masterhood. It's like, you couldn't have learned that yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, this fight wouldn't have been able to happen prior to probably her finding a master, because she was still, a baby.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But it's also like this moment sort of, again, solidified my expectation that these two were going somewhere, maybe romantically. There's always, when these two get together, there's always banter going on. Whereas when he's fighting Aang, there's just fighting. This is like, he's got banter, like, I'm going to insult you, you water tribe peasant, or whatever, Mm-hmm. It's just all that is entertaining. And like, there's like a deeper personal conflict ahead of like the physical one going on.
Right.
That's such an Azula thing to say, too. I think it's funny that he steers away from that later, but we won't talk about that. But it's such an Azula thing to say.
Yeah, he does seem to try and channel his sister whenever he gets into certain situations. Just not imitating her, but he just calls on. You can imagine him calling on past experience, saying, "Okay, what would Azula say here? I need to think of something insulting." He's got a lot of experience to draw on from that.
Now I'm thinking of another episode where he, but we won't talk about that.
I love also how the fight is basically, or the fight and the battles are like a pendulum of like advantages, where it's like, oh, it's the sun, it's the Fire Nation's going to do well, and then it's the moon in the night. Oh, here goes the water. Oh, the sun's back. All right, so it's like a back and forth kind of thing going on.
Yeah, the initiative being lost and gained depending on the kind of day and night cycle, and kind of highlighted by Zuko as well. In that moment where he says, you rise with the moon, I rise with the sun, and that's when it kind of really sets in stone that dynamic. And I love the way they channel the overall combat of the fight and the battle with this kind of smaller conflict that has the personal touch,
which is cool because it's also setting like rules for the world. So
yes, attaching that kind of spiritual element to the bending as well.
And even with like the short amount of time that Katara's been practicing this, I still buy this, like her victory here, because if for no other reason, Zuko's not in like top fighting condition right now. Like he's injured and he just is exhausted from getting into the water tribe in the first place.
Yeah, there's that, and also that she's being empowered by the moon. So she's got the advantage of that. She's fresh, he's tired, and also at a disadvantage because he's fighting her at nighttime. So
apart from anything else, it's also the actual location because she has unlimited supply of ammunition around her, which is particularly for a waterbender is very impressive. And he's currently in the freezing cold climate, trying to summon fire at nighttime while completely exhausted. You know, he has every disadvantage right now.
Also, I mean, she's had an entire season to get better. True. And we obviously we acknowledge that by the time she fights Paku, she's pretty good. Like he's like, oh, I'm pretty impressed actually, but I'm still not going to teach you. And that's the whole,
You're going to teach me? No.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you weren't here for that recording. We were kind of.
Oh, what?
No. I just realized you weren't here for that recording because we didn't really buy that growth. Like we thought that happened a little too quick.
Really?
Or we weren't shown it. Yeah, but it's a different discussion though.
Yeah, we buy it kind of on a knife's edge. It was just done. She was just too far developed, but only by like the smallest margin. We bought we could buy where she is right now. We just need to have a few more scenes showing her development throughout the series. Learning from that scroll, practicing herself. It kind of gets turned up a notch too quickly, in our opinion.
Especially because the last time we saw her doing it, she was mad at Aang for being so good. And then also we had the issue with Aang kind of like took a backseat, which, I'm sorry, that car probably totally came through.
A little bit. Not bad, though.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that they kind of reverted, and then there was like really no consistency. Like I didn't even like that Aang initially, midway through the season, was doing as well as he was doing. But then all of a sudden, like when it became like let's do Katara show, he like took a step back. Like it would be better for me if she was progressing and doing better than Aang was doing like midway in the book.
And you just have that finer balance between the two's progression. I can buy him struggling and her excelling far beyond him at this point under Paku's tutelage. But I agree that he was coasting too much. They kind of just put him on the back foot and said, okay, Aang. They came here for Aang to learn. That's the kind of that's where the urgency and the drama is kind of lying. And he just does get completely renegades to the back behind the scenes.
Again, that's why I like Zuko again too, because I see his progression. I see him suck and then do well, and that's why those kind of characters always appeal to me versus the ones that kind of like just like the Aangs who kind of coast, or like Kataras who kind of like have raw power as well. Like I never really or Azulas, that those kinds of characters I'm less interested in.
Those characters can all be compelling in their own way, but I agree that like Zuko's style, like seeing the growth, like that's
because
more
it's
fun.
More true to life. That's why.
Because
we're not superheroes. We're not benders. We don't have magic power. So characters like that are more true to life, and they feel more relatable.
I mean, we're about to meet Toph. We don't have to, I mean.
But for her, I feel like she did have a struggle though, and that's the reason why she's as great as she was.
Toph
because
is the
she
greatest.
had to go through. We'll talk about her too, but like,
yeah, we got a whole.
I do have some issues with her being.
I was talking more about the OP quality, where like she just kind of literally just waltzes through life without having to do too much compared to the other characters. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But yeah, it doesn't compare to Zuko's progression for me.
Right.
Thematically.
Apart from anything else, it's the fact that because you are seeing his struggle, you're seeing the development on a more nuanced level. You're seeing individual step by step rather than kind of overarching progression. You're seeing the individual pieces of his growth, which kind of by default makes him more compelling because you have a greater understanding of how he's developing as a character. It's just on that purely physical level without going into everything else as well. It all adds up for him.
So where? Like this is
the end of the episode, really. After Zuko is defeated and Zuko takes the advantage with the sun rising, he steals Aang and extremely quickly scrambles him up that cliff before Katara awakens.
Yeah. I like to imagine that like another 5 hours or something passed or something like that, which still probably wouldn't have been enough.
Which makes sense given the progression of time, night and day. They kind of flip-flop between extremely rapidly, scene-wise. So time has to be passing off camera, relatively rapidly. Basically the episode ends with Zuko walking into the blizzard, carrying Aang away. And
which again,
the next one. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that's like perfectly reminiscent of like him constantly having to struggle. Like now he's got the Avatar and trudging through a blizzard into nothing. You know.
You had him, and
Having
then
to
you
figure
had
out how he's
nowhere
gonna
to
do
go.
Yeah.
It's perfectly indicative of his life, you know, and the fact that it leads him, as we'll get to in the next episode, leads him to that conversation with Aang, you know, just acknowledging it. It's like, this is just, you know, so typical of my life right now. I have you, and I can't take you anywhere.
Right. And that was like the siege that opens up the second part of the episode. It reminded me a little bit of like the Gondor stuff, except for this one's more about like getting deeper and deeper. With Gondor, it was like getting up and up, but like having tiers in systems. So like they'll break through one wall, they have to break through another wall. So you just see that progression of them going through the Fire Nation versus the Northern Water Tribe.
Yeah, I enjoyed that as well. And we get to see, you know, the different layers of the Fire Nation's army as well, as they're kind of deploying and moving against the Waterbenders and the general fighters of the Water Tribe in different kind of configurations for each layer of the wall. I like that they kind of made it visually interesting and kind of changed it up and changed the pace. One thing I would like to see, though, is I would have liked when the wall gets hit or taken down for the Waterbenders to just repair it, because I feel like that's a that's a very useful, you know, tactical advantage they have given the way they've designed their environment.
At first, when I was watching this, because it's been a little while since I saw this, I was kind of going, why aren't they using like their home field advantage a little bit more? But as the scenes progress, they do that. Like they literally just melt the snow out from beneath the tanks and sink them. They like Paku literally freezes soldiers right where they're standing. Like they are pretty badass. Like I enjoy that a lot. They're
Definitely.
there's at one point where like Fire Nation soldiers are trying to cross like a bridge and they just get rid of the bridge.
Yeah, he just pulls the bridge back with the moon power. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. If they really did everything that they could do, it would be really boring, I guess, to watch, because there'd just be no battle.
Yeah, they really don't. The Fire Nation really doesn't have a chance of taking the city. When you think about it in grand scheme of things, they just don't have a chance.
Which I guess that's kind of the point. Is like Zhao's like, okay, keep them busy and pressure them to the point that I can get to, like, you know, the point that I need to cut off like the head, you know, like the snake or whatever.
Yeah, because it seems like it's to deter their attention, you know.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of he. I think it's just the way it's presented. This should have been more of a delaying tactic. You know, it was kind of presented as the way that this battle we'll win it anyway, but let's take away the moon advantage so we win it faster. That's kind of how it's presented. But in reality, the way it would actually work is the case of the fight would purely be a delay or a distraction, so that he could get to this vital point that they need to get rid of, so they even have a chance. If they'd played up the kind of the tension and conflict between the two nations as more of equals rather than, you know, unstoppable force against underdog, I think that would have played better for me.
Because if you had that, then you still keep up the reputation of the North being like this, like, yeah, you can't beat them, you know, kind of situation, even with our advantage. But then still having like, yeah, this is the reason why I need the moon, like this crazy moon tactic. Instead of being like, yeah, I agree with that. That should have been the case.
And they talk about it. He talks about it with Iroh, because Iroh's like, you're crazy. You think you just walk up there, and you know, there's a reason that their civilization is untouched for however many, or for the last 100 years that it's been.
Yeah, even Zhao actually said that. Yeah, Zhao knows. I think actually that this, as much as Zhao's off the deep end, I think this is actually him at his best. Like, he's actually fairly subdued in this episode, aside from like the grandiosity of his goal.
And the culmination.
Yeah, and that, you know, the moment I'm talking about. But like the goal itself is fairly grandiose. But because he's trying to seal, like, he wants to be in the history books, you know, like, so he's doing something crazy. But overall, like, he actually put some measure of thought into this compared to like his earlier episoeds, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he listens to counsel from Iroh as well. Granted, it's counsel he's already acknowledged as being important himself, but he is saying, you know, fair enough, we'll begin again at daybreak. You know, it's not just constant, no, we must do this, or hammering on the arrogance or the stupidity. We're seeing some forethought from him.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But he thinks that his plan is like, well, my plan's the most ingenious plan ever, and yeah.
What I really like about this episode is the Spirit World, and especially like the introduction to just the Spirit Monkey, and he's just like, get out of my face right now. Like, that's how all the spirits are usually.
That Spirit Monkey is also voiced by Mark Hamill, by the way.
Oh my God! Of course.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
It would have to be someone impressive because considering the kind of random relevance of him.
Well, they brought him into the studio for like to do 2 lines or whatever for Ozai.
For Ozai,
it's like, hey, since you're here, like he goes, oh, okay, I'll be the weird monkey guy. Yeah, the grumpy monkey.
But I love how that's consistent even within Korra and any other time they're in the spirit world. How like the spirits really do not care for humans at all. They're like, we don't care about you guys' plate. We're cool over here in our spirit world. Leave us alone. So I love that.
Yeah.
Even more so in Korra, which I feel like is they maybe the creators, I don't know, are like inspired by Spirited Away at some point, or just like that sort of Japanese.
Oh my goodness!
It looks like that. It has to be like a Miyazaki fest in here. You know?
But that concept of like spirits being like, look, we don't mess with you. You don't mess with us.
Yeah, kind of natural forces as well as anything else, you know.
Another thing too, Dave Filoni did this episode, and you can kind of see the carryover he kind of has with whenever he does Star Wars, he does like the more like mythical type stuff. Like you'll see like the Loth wolves or whatever, like the big giant wolves, whatever. You have like this big giant wolf in here, and it's like, you can see that that's the stuff that he was into, and that's what he kind of like brought over. Those are his favorite episodes usually.
I feel like I know what like the decor around his house is now, just portraits of wolves and stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, that's very Princess Mononoke, that kind of thing.
He also had, Plo Koon's general being a wolf designed. It's interesting. Or that was him who brought that in, I don't know. But so that's the kind of opening with the spirit world. That monkey in particular, by the way, made me laugh my ass off as a kid. I was always finding that hilarious. Just like it's like, go away.
He just does it louder, yeah.
Yeah, the fact that it's Mark Hamill just makes it all the better for me. I love it.
That's great. And then it establishes that he needs to find, was it Koh, the face stealer?
Yeah, Roku's the one who tells him that.
I love Koh.
Yeah, Koh's cool.
He's
terrifying. I would have been done. He was so much.
Koh is somebody that I always wanted them to, because he says we'll meet again, and when that can mean I'll meet another empire, that can mean I'll meet another Avatar, whatever. So I mean, whatever. But I really wanted to see him again. I really did.
Yes, same. That's my exact.
Always thought,
every time I see him or think about him, like, why did we see him again?
We can get in. I don't want to get too into this because this is way later, but that was always like that was the theory that I thought had happened to Amon, that he had met Koh, and that's why he wore a mask.
Oh, bro!
That would have been before.
Like, and he sends people through bloodbending, like he doesn't see people anymore. Oh, that would have been amazing.
I was really hoping that was going to happen.
Would have been, but did you? I love Roku's introduction as well, because we get a nice bit of setup from Koh. The kind of atmospheric build up before we actually ever see him personally. I like the fear from Roku.
I will say it's a testament to great voice acting with Roku, because what he says is literally like, you have to meet Koh, the face stealer. If you're not careful, the face stealer will steal your face. Like, he literally like, just about that's and I almost didn't notice it because his voice acting was so good, but I thought, wait a minute, who wrote this?
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention. The actual delivery of the line, it's like, oh my god, really? But because it's Roku and because of the kind of tension of the moment, and then the immediate follow-up of going to this beautifully, eerily designed layer of Koh, it just completely glosses over the ridiculous line.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking, like, I'm not sure why, like, they're cutting away from, like, this scene to go show us what Katara and Sokka are doing, like, because I think, like, the tension would have built a little bit more if we had just stayed in that moment. But then again, like Antoine just mentioned, it's kind of terrifying, and maybe they thought they needed to break it up for, like, the kids a little bit. Like, it might have been a little too intense otherwise.
At the end of the day, it's a kid's show.
Yeah.
I love it though, because it's like the dark fable. It felt like a fable that he got transported into, and a dark fable at that, not like some cheesy one or Disney-fied one.
Oh, it sounds like a real like urban, or like not urban, but like a real legend,
Right.
Like
it's a real legend.
Huh? Oh, I didn't say that. I just said it sounds like one. Like I could believe that.
I'm quoting Avatar, but no one got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about.
But just the execution of that entire scene. I agree that it's a bit of a shame that they had to cut away from it, but at the same time, it does kind of keep
I retracted that. I retracted that criticism because I think it would be like too intense for kids.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
little
it would be. It would be. It's almost double-edged sword. I kind of want it to be too intense, but at the same reason, I get why they kind of changed the pace, changed it, so they gave you some more to work for, rather than just kind of sitting carrying behind your sofa, watching this play out. Because the design of him, itself, just the fact that it's a giant, centipede earwig type thing with this. I don't even know how to describe it.
The noises are what creep me out when he moves. Like you hear like the scuttling of like the different legs or whatever as he's clinging, going around. Like that's gross.
Yeah, and the shifting of the carapace and the kind of the flesh as it kind of switches faces, and there's a word for it, I can't recall though, but the way the face kind of folds out from inside the flesh as though that kind of sack is just full of faces, and it's just god.
And it's interesting, he lays out sort of like the fate or whatever, or plight at least of a past avatar that we don't know about. We learn later it's Kuruk, right? The former waterbender. I think he overestimates the timeline. He says like 800 or 900 years.
Yeah,
can't be that long ago.
Even with Kyoshi's ridiculously long life, that's too long.
No, but yeah, and also I also like. I think it's sort of a subtle thing. I'd have to watch the scene again, so don't quote me. But I think that like the rule is that you can't show emotion, right? Or he'll take your face.
Yeah.
I feel like
steal your face.
Right. I feel like that clown face, like if that's supposed to be his real face, like his default or whatever, that face is very impassive, no emotion. But when he laughs at Aang, when he's being creepy, when like he's showing emotion, it's always someone else's face. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Like he needs other people's faces.
He needs other people to have personality.
Really
it's really interesting. It's food for thought anyway.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. I like the fact that we get such a dynamic range. He'll switch. The fact that he switches just to surprise Aang, to try and get some shock and use that as an opening. When he just sort of spins around on the spot and shows him a baboon face, for example. I like the just variation and the kind of. There's a randomness to it in what he's showing, but at the same time you get the sense that there's a deliberate choice behind it also. I like how it kind of blends those two ethoses into one. Oh, I mean, to say nothing of the fact what he's talking about. He's talking about Tui and Lara, very elegant kind of poetic
his
sense.
little dance.
Yeah, when it's push and pull and flowing on in this kind of serpentine fashion. Yeah, and
it's
the
interesting.
moon,
Wait, also another thing I need for
the
clarification.
cadence of it all, it's brilliant.
Was the previous avatar did he get his face stolen?
His
wife we know he died. So,
well, only because I feel like Koh only shows faces which he stole, but when he transfigures his face into he's like previous avatars, like does that mean at some point an avatar had his face taken?
Well, we know that Kuruk was killed by
him. He just knows
right?
how to mimic other people's faces.
We know Kuruk was killed by him, right? So presumably that's the face he stole that as well.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, because obviously he'd stolen his wife's face.
But wouldn't he technically, if he's there, that he would be in the avatar state? So wouldn't that mean the avatar cycle ends there?
Yeah, I kind of argued or discussed this with Callan like a few weeks ago because I always thought the story was that he stole the face of someone he loved, and then
that was
like
the case,
right.
he just failed to take him out. But then Callan showed me like a source that said Kuruk died when he was like 32 or 33 years old. Whatever. Okay, like I mean, the point is he died like young. He was like the youngest avatar when he died or something, or one of. I'm going okay, so he died, or maybe he was just like mortally wounded and died later. I don't know.
The impression I always got, I don't know if this is accurate from memory, but the impression I always got was the wife's face was stolen. He went to confront Koh and then got killed by him.
It's Star Wars. He died of a broken heart, right? That's what happened. Yeah.
But yeah, because he didn't necessarily have to go into the Avatar state and get killed by him in that state, so it wouldn't have ended the cycle necessarily. Particularly not if he thought, I'm not going to win this. I can't go into the Avatar state because then I'll cut the line off. I have to secure the resurrection. Any number of things. We may be wrong. It may have been killed by someone else, but I think it was Koh that killed him.
But it's interesting. You mentioned this earlier, Callan, like what he's talking about, like the nature of the spirits, like sort of to me implying that they're not just the moon and ocean spirit. Like they also like they're basically like just like this sort of cyclical opposing, like the push and pull and everything, like sort of opposites almost, like life and death,
that has been the nature of their relationship for all of time. They've always been the push and pull and almost detached from the cycle.
It's almost
nature.
It's almost like. Oh, go ahead. What was your question?
Didn't they give up like their spirit form to be
have
a mortal?
Yeah,
that's the way Zhao puts it. Yeah, and it's almost like so is that what Iroh's talking about? I mean, obviously need the moon anyway, but like does Iroh recognize that these things like one counterbalances the other, like life and death, and like we can't exist without these things intact? Like, does he know that?
I thought that's what. Oh, you mean Iroh or Zhao?
Iroh. Like I know
Yeah,
Zhao
I mean,
nothing. Yeah.
later when he says that, he's like, look, you can't kill the moon spirit, because I feel like
I just wondered if he knew it was more than the moon, because that's what's implying here. Like that's what's being implied. Like it's not, they're not
For
just
Iroh, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Zhao even says, he spent time in the spirit world or whatever, and he knows that he's spent time in the spirit world. So I think he knows more. Like Iroh knows the deep implications of it, not just oh, we need the moon for like the world to live.
I got the impression it was more about Iroh's appreciation of the general balance of nature and the spirits, rather than specific understanding of why these two can't be separated on on a more...
Sure. Of course, but these two are pretty crucial because they live in our world. Like they help. They make or their world. They make Avatar world work. Like otherwise, no one could live there.
Yeah, no. I also, it also as well brings to mind the idea of security. I feel like these fish should probably be better guarded than they were, given the fact that they secure the nature of the entire planet. True. I feel like maybe some White Lotus guys should be sat there at all times.
Yeah, I feel like with Iroh, though, I mean, that's sort of his character throughout the entire thing, is even though he's Fire Nation, he understands the balance of the world. He understands that it's not just about, later he talks about, the division of the four nations and how it all has to be one whole, and the division is sort of imaginary, this thing that's been made up. So with Iroh, I think he knows those things, especially being in the spirit world before.
I also like how it's consistent with Rava and Vatu too, going forward as well, like the nature of the balance, and that there's these dual spirits that always occur within the world.
Yeah. Some
because
people,
it's real, or that's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a lot of people complain about that aspect of Korra, and like that was like one of my favorite things about it. Like they're literally a wrestling yin yang symbol, like that was torn apart by human intervention.
Right.
It's like it's a really cool
beautiful.
Yeah.
It replicates life. Like that's just how it is. Like you'll always have really shitty people in the world, and in order for the world to continue to exist, you have to have good people to counteract the shitty things that the shitty people do. So. And
then I also like how when this comes about within the finale, it's when I don't know which one is which, but I'm just gonna say the white koi, when that one dies, that's when Aang is actually able to fuse himself with the black one, which is supposed to be the one that's supposed to be the aggressive, the masculine form, and then goes and just wrecks everything, and it doesn't stop until I have to get these names right.
Tui is the moon. Tui is the moon. La is the ocean.
Okay. When Tui is resuscitated by Yue, that's when he chills out and he's like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go back because my boo's back." Kind of situation. Cool.
We're kind of
we're jumping around. Yeah, we are jumping around.
Yeah.
But before we move away from Kosa, I just like the fact that all of this that we've been discussing here was kind of explained and delivered to us by this spirit, because just the dramatic kind of gravitas impact of him being this ancient being that was he was the only one Roku knew who was long lived enough to have been there at the beginning and to understand the nature of these two prior to them moving to the physical world, and just the way he delivers the lines, the motion of his body, the sound effects, the delivery, the kind of the cadence of his voice as he's kind of swerving around and explaining this, it adds a kind of elegance and a poetry to what amounts to effectively an exposition dump. I like that it kind of gives that sort of that aesthetic to it before we drive us home with the actual finale itself. But essentially, Aang leaves there having survived.
To put this back on track, it's kind of cool. I think it's actually kind of cool. I feel like this episode, they knew for a fact that they were coming back for more, because you have all these little Easter eggs and tidbits on like what's going to happen in the future, which we already kind of discussed already. But with Zuko talking about his sister and the implications of that, like we're starting to get what themes are going to be happening in book 2. Already established in this, especially in this last episode. Like it definitely feels like a continuation, because I feel like at this point they were like, yeah, we like your show, keep going, and like they were able to like fit this in.
I mean, if nothing else, we get the reveal of the last part of the episode that we'll get to in a minute, the very last shot. So we know that they knew they were going to have at least most likely going to have a second series. But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of little mini bits that kind of brought up and said, look, we've got things to address in the future. Enjoy these little Easter eggs and tidbits. But yeah, Aang's brought back to the physical realm by Heibai. He's kind of guided back to the place where he entered.
Which is cool seeing him again.
Yeah, it was nice seeing it. Sort of a not a what's the word? Shout back to that, and
I
as
do
well
love that,
attached to the
though.
fact that it was Roku that guided to him. Say, hey, look behind you, and that was the episode joined to Roku's original appearance. So there's a little bit of a connection there.
The solstice. I like that though about Airbender in general is they seem to bring. You'll have like these seemingly filler episodes, and even the filler ones are fun. Like this is the one show that I don't mind 99% of the filler episodes, with the exception of you know which one. But they always not always, but there's oftentimes they'll bring back these characters and these like situations from prior episodes, and they're like more meaningful or they're relevant to something in the plot. And like, oh, that's cool. They wasn't for nothing. So neat.
And this is kind of like, so he's back in the physical world, and this is where he like blasts Zuko against like the cave wall, and then like inches his way like with his chin out like the snow, trying to make it look.
It's like, this will work. This will be effective.
Welcome back.
Because he rides back to
Good
find
to
his
be
body
back.
gone, rockets up like a comet, guides Katara and Sokka to his location as a result of that, which is interesting because they can see his spirit form, which is not usual. But yeah, lands back in the cave, knocks Zuko back, as you say, and then just literally tries to crawl through the snow with his chin. Like, yeah, this is going to be effective. Zuko not having any of it, of course.
And then Katara, they have their rematch, she and Zuko, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, not much of a rematch.
Yeah.
Yeah, trust me, Zuko.
And this is the second time that Aang says no, like not gonna leave him here, gotta take him. Like this is the second time he's rescued him. Like the first time was in Blue Spirit, right? Like where he was like knocked
he
out.
couldn't just leave him.
Yeah,
I love. Got a
But
lot of
that's
Sokka's
Aang,
line.
and I love that his character is consistent like that. He cares about everybody.
Yeah.
And also, I think he sees more, and he sees past Zuko's like tough exterior. He knows that he's hurting inside. Like I feel like someone as compassionate as Aang is able to sense that kind of a thing. Like he knows that hurt people hurt, and that's the reason why Zuko's doing what he's doing, and that's why he doesn't want to just like give up on him. As he said too in the Blue Spirit episode, he was like, we could have been friends at some point, and that kind of thing. He still is latching on to that.
I almost wish that kind of Aang had sort of roused around the time that Zuko was giving his kind of his speech out to the cave entrance. I wish Aang had heard that. I mean, it probably would have been a bit cliche if it had been done poorly, but I think that it would have been interesting to see Aang aware of that, even if he didn't address it to him personally. Just have that in the back of his mind. It would have been cool to have that bit of a connection between the two. But I like Sokka's line as well. As much as Aang's saving Zuko, I like the fact that Sokka was like, yeah, this makes sense. Let's bring the guy who's constantly trying to kill us. He's always.
But
the
he isn't.
one.
He's trying to capture you guys, not kill you guys.
Well, I mean, he's trying to capture Aang. He's not.
I feel like he's come close to killing them.
He could have killed Katara in that one, but I think he's okay. He's just capture, not kill, capture, not kill.
Well, yeah. I mean, Zuko never comes off as a murderer,
Right.
But Sokka is a bit prejudiced in this area anyway. His thinking is that why wouldn't he be doing this? It's Fire Nation. But yeah, you're right. We know.
While all that's going down, Ja finally has gotten himself into the spirit place and takes Twee, and we have a really cool thing that they haven't really done before, and that's the whole all red sequence of like the moon being in danger, and then later on the black and white when it's like dead.
Love that.
I also want to say real quick before we get to that how well that contrasts with the scene before that with Paku and like his fellow waterbenders like kicking ass like in a big way. Like he almost
thank you for mentioning that.
Avatar.
Yeah, because like you mentioned earlier, Callan, I don't know if you mentioned in one of the episodes that you've never been particularly impressed with Paku relative like to other masters, but
that's the
pretty
exception.
badass.
Yeah, that's the single exception when he's doing the Avatar water twister.
And that's because he has to. Like, I think he only gets in those situations where he has to, like, use that power when it's like, okay, I'm being overwhelmed here. I need to, like, pull out all the stops. And it puts him on that White Lotus level. And also just in the fact that he's doing that water tornado type thing, it's similar to what I think we might have seen from Gyatso, who could have been also, like, he wasn't part of the White Lotus, obviously, but he would have been part of that tier. Mm-hmm. And just seeing him doing that is very similar to what we would have seen with, like, an air spout and, like, the attacks he was doing. It's like, oh, this is, like, what he was doing, but probably even to a more awesome extent because he was dealing with Sozin Comet Firebender.
I mean,
so
we see Tenzin doing that, so it's without question that Gyatso would have been capable of it. So yeah, right. Definitely right. But I don't discount Paku as a master of Lotus level. I just personally it was more the mental attitude I had with him. He seemed
I agree.
I know.
For he's like really open-minded because he's with the White Lotus, and they've always, despite the war, they're unified. I mean, he won't teach a girl how to bend.
Yeah, I can buy that there's a way that can be done, but again, there was always that question where it was like, would you be like this? You know, it's a case of he would have been all about, you know, the cross-cultural acknowledgement, but not. You can still have blind spots. You know, you can still have these weird lapses and wisdom and such in a character. It was never addressed, so that was why that was.
He's the Anakin of the White Lotus.
Yeah, which is a weird comparison, but yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
makes sense.
But anyway, I just wanted to mention that moment of consummate badassery. We can go back.
Yeah, thank you. Because I actually didn't want to talk about that too.
Yeah, apart from anything else, just the coloration of that scene, the fact that it's all deep blues. You know, not just the actual powers going
contrasts.
on. Yeah,
they contrast really well when Zhao puts Twee in a bag, you know, and darkens the moon or whatever.
And I like as well that it does make it go red. There's a distinction between taking it from the pool and actually killing the spirit. You know, I like that it's not just
in danger to death.
Yeah, precisely. And red being the danger color. It's also weirdly unpleasant to look at, which I like. It's, you know, that horrible blood red, that kind of a filter that you don't want to see, kind of ruining the color on screen. It's like I don't know how to describe it. It was very unsettling, even compared to when the moon goes out. At least then it's, you know, it's a black and white filter you're more familiar with.
Well, it's not comfortable. It's like, you know,
you're supposed to feel the unease of that whole situation.
Yeah, and the music plays that as well.
Red.
As when they're going, Appa going across the blood red moon, and then we get the stuff with Yue explaining like how she even survived as a baby because she was very sick. And the way that she was given life again was through the moon spirit when they took her to the spirit place in the Northern Water Tribe. And that's why her hair's white too. As an aside.
It was this was the moment I mentioned earlier. How she just randomly explains this because they think, I sense this pain, and then immediately it just cuts to her saying, you know, I was saved by I owe the moon spirit my life, and giving this expositionary thing. That seemed a bit unnatural to me.
It felt convenient.
Yeah, it really did just cut from Aang feeling the pain of the moon to her just explaining this, and it was like, what prompted this? There needs to be a line between here.
I think it is needed at this moment. Considering they didn't do it anywhere else, which I guess they could have. You need to explain why she and Aang, of all people, can feel this. Like, why only her? You know. So I mean, to me, it makes sense that she's explaining it there. But when else? I don't know when else it would have come up. Like, I'm kind of the moon spirit, but. Yeah.
Even if it had just been a case of someone going, you know, what's up, what's wrong? Is I can feel the, you know, that, you know, have the question of why she's feeling it be the kind of lead into the explanation. I can buy that. That's fine. It's just a case there wasn't there. It was like they'd cut out a line somewhere and it just jumped into her explaining.
I totally agree that it's not the most well-crafted explanation. Well, it's not the most well-timed moment. It does feel convenient, like plot convenience, but it is at the same time necessary. So I give it a pass myself.
Yeah, I mean, I consider that the episodes are 22 minutes. So, but I agree that it could have been maybe like a one. You know, if it's just like one more line of dialogue.
Just some lead in to kind of explain why she's just now going, or not even just now, but why she's immediately now triggering it. You know, just why have you randomly started this dark drive in this specific moment when there was no mention of it? It just happened to be. I feel pain suddenly. Did you know that I owe the moon spirit my life? Yeah, it was a bit weird. Again, for Avatar, it's not exactly bad writing in general. It's just not as perfect as it usually is.
But yeah, then they get to the back to the spirit sanctuary where they find Zhao like about to kill Twee. And my favorite part of this is Iroh being like,
of course,
like I'm gonna fuck you up right now if you don't put that shit down.
Actually, prior to that, when he's doing his evil villain monologue and he's
the moon slayer.
And then like Momo comes and he's like, get it off.
Is that the debut of Momo music? That
No, it's happened a few times before.
Is it the second time?
The third time, because the first time we had it was when they first found him and he was like,
oh, okay, I totally don't remember that. All right,
it's been a fair few times, I think, up to this point.
Yeah.
But this is definitely the most in-your-face one for sure, especially considering it's contrasting that dramatic moment. It's like Zhao, the invincible, Zhao, the moon slayer. Oh my god! I mean, do you?
I like to imagine that like Momo's like a no-nonsense person, and like his inner monologue, like I've had enough of this, you know, like
we know his voice, don't we?
I feel like
yeah.
He talks in the library? Is that when he talks?
No, he talks when like Aang's tripping, like when he's
right.
Yeah, when he's sleep deprived.
Anyway, as well. You said some very hurtful things.
You said some very.
Oh yeah, when he was sick.
I feel like his character as is, just as a little animal, as a little creature, is very no nonsense. If I think of all the shit that he does, he's just like, nope, don't care.
He's interesting. I mean, this is kind of out of the blue. I know to discuss him, but he's very. I like how constantly present he is without ever distracting from anything. With the rare exceptions when he's actually drawn attention to, like this moment, he's almost always on screen doing some not intricate but interesting kind of form of animation. Even if it's just resting on Aang's head and his tail's kind of waggling, he's always there. He's always relevant to the point where you almost forget Momo's a thing until you rewatch it and then have him kind of be there. It's interesting to have that on something on display.
One of my favorite examples of that, and I don't remember when it is like he's hiding under Aang's hat and making it look like he has a Q or whatever, like with his tail at one point, which is just funny to me.
I want to say that's in when they go to the Earth Kingdom to meet Boomy first time.
Sounds right. Yeah, but anyway, like back to Zhao versus Iroh or whatever, if you want to call it that. I don't know so much.
They didn't really get to fight, but it was a spat they had.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, I mean, like Antoine was saying, like that moment is great. That's when like ooh, you do not fuck with Iroh.
That's one of the the only examples where you see him actually being serious. In the entire series,
right, without any kind of bathos at all.
Yeah,
he also hasn't really fire bent up to this point. Not really,
because when he was taken by the Earthbenders, he was just using the rock.
Is this actually the first time?
Active
I feel like there must have been other examples.
He's used it to heat stuff up.
Oh, of course,
right.
But I mean, actually, proper burst of flame and such.
No, he hasn't done anything else.
Not combative, not to this extent.
Yeah,
because I can't think of a single instance outside that, which is interesting.
Which also shows how reserved Iroh is, where he I'm not gonna fight unless I really have to. This is the only moment where he's like, all right, this is when I actually have to fight. And when he does it, he busts it out.
He's one of those.
Even
characters.
him shouting, I think of some of the most powerful dialogue that Mako has had. And it's usually when he shouts, and you're like, oh my god, it's sort of heart wrenching, and it's not totally in his character to do so. So hearing him, he's like, let it go now. You're like, ah.
Yeah. The fury of a quiet man is always more powerful.
Exactly, because Zhao's shouting all the time, and anytime he's doing his shouts, whatever. And same with a parent. If you have a parent who is the quieter one, who doesn't really does much, but then that one day just sit your ass down, and you're like, whoa, that's serious, because that parent never raises their voice with me. You know what I mean?
That's actually a real parenting tactic.
Yeah,
you're
it's to reserve it.
Reserved, and then when something's serious or your kid's in danger or something, and you do that, you're like, you startle them. That's the point. So
that's why you shouldn't be smacking your kids all the time. That should be reserved for when they
or yelling at them
or yelling. Yeah.
I think it's also good voice directing, because he talks to a lot of despicable people in this show, but it's no, reserve it for this moment. This is the moment when your character is really affronted. He could do this in any episode, but he doesn't. It's this moment, so it's
and the seriousness of it as well too. It's yo, you're about to kill a spirit, that's sacred, and you're going to just hurt the world. Who cares about your ego right now, man?
Put that away. And he presents.
I think it's the only time he ever threatens anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing I was about to say.
He literally says, whatever you do to that spirit, I'll unleash upon you tenfold.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, I love
it's a
that
threat.
line.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's the fact that it is a threat, and that he's speaking Zhao's language. He's saying, well, if you're not going to listen to anything else, if you do this, I will you do it unto you tenfold.
I will end you.
The passion he says that. Yeah, it's effectively him saying, I will end you. And that's so powerful from a character like Iroh. It's like the Dumbledore of a series. The people you never see do anything, when they do something, you know it's shit has got real.
That's why you don't have him shouting at Harry about the Goblet of Fire. You have him shouting.
God! Did you put your name on the Goblet of Fire? No! Did you have one of the other kids do it for you? Smashing him against the trophy. Worst moment in the entire series.
And like Dumbledore, when he actually busts ass and does something, he gets results instantly. But in the time it takes for him to cross that little space between him and Zhao, there's 5 fire blasts already. No one else does that. It's the velocity that he's got going, and he's this short, fat little old man. It's like a Yoda moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
And he takes everybody out of play with pretty much one move each.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you see Zhao kind of standing there, just looking
and going
God,
oh my god.
Yeah.
And I also really like the lighting, because it's a little bit more prominent maybe when he fights Zuko. But even though the world's black and white, when they use their fire, there's color again.
Oh yeah, I love that.
The white contrast kind of sparks up around the flame. It's nice that they add that, which is very difficult to do when you think about it. Having that sense of natural lighting in such an unnatural, coloured environment. It's impressively done. But there's also there's something oppressive about it. Like when I don't know whether it's the like a dampened sound effect or the music tone or something. But when they are in the dark and kind of the moonless world, there's like this sense of kind of like walking through thick air about the characters. It's in the motion and in the oppressive. Yeah. There's like an oppressive feel to it that I can't quite put my finger on.
Everyone does kind of look also maybe like a little older, like it's just not right. Like they look worn and tired and like it's like, of course Aang kind of looks epic because he's like in the Avatar state or whatever. But even Yue, like she looks much older than she is. Like she looks more serious and just older and wiser somehow and tired.
It's powerful moment and how it's been just built.
And again, like another sort of subtle thing with her is that they kept her eyes blue. Her eyes kept color. Like she's the only one with that. Like so, even before Iroh says it, if you're paying attention, like really close attention, you can see there's something different about her from everyone else because she's got that bit of the moon inside her.
Yeah,
which I think probably is the only reason. I think that's probably the only reason everything didn't go like to shit immediately is because she has a portion of like the moon in her. Like that should have been like It should have been like a world-ending event, which Zhao did, I think. If it hadn't been for the fact that a bit of the moon was inside her, it would have been.
It's a very close thing. And again, why they should really have some security on that pond. I hope they do at least after this point, because that's not just.
Well, they were in a battle. Give them credit. They were in a battle.
No. I just mean in general. Like we need to make sure that outside of the battle, I want like the best masters defending that thing. But yeah, we then of course get the amazing moment with Aang standing in the water and just immediately plummeting into it. It's like an iconic shot from the series, and going Koizilla with La.
Love that.
La's also equally angry about having his better half done with,
and again that color starts to seep back into onto the shots as the water begins glowing with the same spiritual energy as Yue's eyes, or similar.
I really like the sort of almost biblical gravitas of this because it's like the angel of death and like the Passover story. Like when the waterbenders see the koi fish Zilla,
they all bend down.
Bow down to it, and it looks at them and then it looks at the other ones and takes those ones out. Like, it's just really cool. I love that.
The music as well. It's the first time we've heard that kind of opera. Not screech, but like there's this high pitched kind of wailing to it, where it's mournful, it's deep, it's powerful. Almost like it's kind of the wailing of the ocean in physical form right before you, and it's really well done with how it's paced with the strides of the creature, the swing of its arms. And just the way everything's kind of retreating from it. All of the timings of all of the animations and the moment and the movements are applied perfectly with the actual sound effects. It's really well done. Apart from that, you've got the awesome visual of it just being this giant, Godzilla-style creature with Aang in the center of it. And again, waterbending.
And also, sort of like the visual of Aang sort of mimicking the motions of it. It's really cool.
Oh, and not to bring up the movie again, but
when
Roku talks about yin and yang, I mean that's one of the things that people like give M. Night shit for, and it's like technically yes, it was wrong because the show had his pronunciation another like a certain way, but he was trying to because I think the reason he did that too is because his Indian name people couldn't pronounce it, so he had changed it. Same with Ang Lee, it's actually not supposed to be Ang Lee, it's supposed to be Ang Lee, and stuff like that. So I try to give M. Night his credit where he can get it because I mean
I don't.
He's not completely.
I mean
that's a tough thing to do because I'm all about correct pronunciations of things. I don't know. I guess coming up being a complete weeaboo when I was 14. It's no, actually it's pronounced this way.
Right.
That's how they would pronounce it in their native tongue. But I mean the fact that this show was an American show and it came first, and this is what all these kids and teenagers and fully grown adults know it as. He's Aang. He's not Aang. This is way too late in the game to try to be correct about it. And
I feel like it was probably a conversation he had with the creators, and they're like, "Well, no, that's what we did." But then he came with his pretentious, like,
Rules
oh no,
lawyers.
but this is how it's supposed to be, and they felt kind of bad about that probably or something like that, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, we
Very
messed
plausible.
up, but like, you know what I mean, like something like that, that kind of situation. But people think that has no basis. People think he just did it just because, you know what I mean? Like, no, he did it for a reason. Like,
Well, it comes across that way because like he changed like everyone's name. Iroh's Iroh, Sokka's Sokka. When they corrected that in the show, like Aang is Aang, and it's like, to me, it's like, look, their name is their name. I don't care how it's spelled. Like you say it the way that they say it.
Apart from anything else, it's entirely irrelevant what real world cultures and languages call them, because it's not the real world and not the real cultures. So the show itself, if they've said that the Water Tribe pronunciation of soccer is soccer, then that's it. Period. It doesn't matter what real life application is involved. I mean, just
I
that
say
logic
yes
alone
and no,
defends
just
it.
because.
yeah, I say it's more
Just
complicated
because,
than that.
like,
but yeah.
it takes so much from other cultures and stuff, and the fact that it is American, that's sort of like that weird. It's like really
Cultural
complicated, I
appropriation.
think. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that normally I'd be like, it's pronounced this way. Like, if you're gonna steal it, at least use it correctly. But like I said, it's too late in the game. This is after the series is completely released.
Not to continue this, but I think this is the wrong movie to give any points for cultural sensitivity, given the casting anyway. So
yeah,
like,
that's why it's such
Yeah.
a weird thing. It's such a weird
Yeah. Yes. It's
Like-
inconsistent.
clusterfuck of a dichotomy with all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Lord help us, we will be covering it in commentary form anyway. So I'm sure all of this will be brought up when we actually get to the film in a few.
It's
short
literally-
weeks.
every background character is Asian. Just like they're that's where they're relegated to. They're back there.
That's insane.
And the casting choices were specifically designed to be that way. Okay, so Yue, she decides that, hey, if I, was given life, maybe I can give it back to
Love the
bring
phrasing of
life.
that.
What?
I love the phrasing of that specifically. The way
Right,
she
yeah,
says it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and I think even her father says, wasn't it like a prophecy or something like that? He said that.
Mhm. He
Yeah.
said
That
he
it
saw
would
a
happen.
dream, or he had a dream, like a
Okay.
vision. Yeah.
Which I'd forgotten
It was
about. I'd completely forgotten the vision comment. It's kind of an afterthought that he talks with Sokka about it.
Right.
It brings him some solace from the situation, how he kind of expected it to an extent. But I'd forgotten that happened.
That's kind of why
That's
I
at
bought
the end.
like his. That's kind of why I bought his mournful speech, because he's sort of a somber guy. Like like it's just in his personality to be that.
Oh yeah,
way.
no, I got,
Like he's
I got
living.
it. Yeah, I definitely,
He's living with like the knowledge like his daughter has to go. It's just like, yeah, he's a sad man, and I get it.
Yeah, I definitely buy him, giving the speech. I just thought it was a really bad speech to give, personally. It was like, you may have maybe the undertone of what you're going for, but don't, make it your primary point. Give them something to fight for. Yeah, that was my only criticism of it. Not that it wasn't believable or anything. Yeah, but we get Zuko vs Zhao. We haven't mentioned that yet.
Yeah.
During the Koizilla scene.
Fight's
What-
gorgeous.
Yes.
Which it is, and again, like when I was younger, I was like, how is this dude considered a master? Like, I just I did not
Right.
get it. I
When
still kind of
Zuko's, like,
don't.
facing
Yeah.
against you.
I don't
Yeah.
know why, but I thought you'd be better than Zuko.
Right, exactly.
I like the fight for its simplicity, because it's not an overly complex fight. It's not got an amazing amount of choreography, but it gives just enough to kind of drive the point home of what these two combatants represent at this point in the story, particularly towards
It's
each
about
other.
the emotional fight that's going on between the two. Because we've up until this point we've seen all this all the conflict between the two characters, and I mean he just tried to kill Zuko. He just straight up tried to blow him up.
So you
Or
tried
have
to have
pirates
me
do it.
killed, and just fire blast immediately
Yeah,
followed.
literally says it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Sorry, no, you go.
I mean, talking about the fight too is when the fight ends and the water spirit
You
takes
about to
Zhao.
come over here and I'm gonna
Collects
make
him.
you.
Yeah.
He collects Zhao. You still see, even as early on as this, that little glimpse of that little glimmer of good in Zuko, where he's like, "Take my hand," and Zhao's like, "Nah, I'd rather die."
Yeah,
Good,
it's interesting because Zhao's kind of state of mind at this point, when he was retreating in fear of Iroh, there's an argument that can be made that he was actually feeling the horror of what he'd done. But it's not, I wouldn't say that was a strong argument, but you can kind of see hints of whether or not he's like, well, I'm horrified by this, and then pulled away, and then in this moment, it's like, almost like a self-penitent thing where he grabs the finger. But then you have that contrasted with the fact that he's like, no, the moon's back. How is that possible? So it's like,
right. I was gonna say, I was gonna say that moment invalidate. Like he was afraid of getting his ass beat. That's why he left.
Right.
Iroh.
Yeah.
Like, that's what that was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there's this kind of blend of one with the other between, and that's the moment that completely cuts that off at the root. And he's like, no, you just are this bad, and it's purely ego that stops him from taking that hand. It's like you would rather die than submit to Zuko as your as a
literally
better.
though.
Ridiculous.
I will say it probably would have been a little maybe too tragic anyway, though, because there's no way that Zuko's going to be able to save him from the fucking ocean.
True.
You know, so
it's the idea that Zuko tried. That this
I know.
character,
I think it would have been harder to watch had he reached back. Like, you know what I mean? Like it would have been maybe too adult at that point, or a little bit too much mature. Like, so it's just better to have the cliche, "I'm a villain. I'm dying now." You know.
Well,
for me, like watching it early on, it was that little like, oh, Zuko, you would save this man who tried to kill you and has like made your life a living hell. You know, I love Zuko.
Yeah, Zuko's the best.
And given what we know happens to now, these so many years later to Zhao, it's like, ugh, he had an unpleasant afterlife, as it were.
Probably worse than just being murdered.
Oh yeah, people always say that death's the worst thing that can happen to them. It's like, nope. Anyone who says that lacks imagination.
Yeah, he's basically in purgatory, I guess. But anyway, so where are we at? Like,
that's the aftermath after everybody the wrap up. Like we already mentioned Yue's father and the dream he had, but also you have Paku saying, you know what, let me go back to the south and like rebuild what I messed up, or not that we've been neglecting.
Yeah.
You guys talk about weird timing with other conversations. That one was like, okay, this battle's done. I've decided to move.
That comes immediately after Zhao has been pulled. It cuts to that.
I think it would have been better had he framed it from, look what they've done to my home. I can't imagine what it must look like in our sister tribe. Like now I understand. Like, just a couple more sentences would have framed that better than what was there.
Logically, like that's what I'd take from it, but they didn't say it. And considering like these are children that are watching, you know what I mean? Like you kind of have to hold their hand a little bit, like, oh, you know, we've been protected all these years, and our sister tribe's just out in the open, and they don't even have water there anymore.
And it's the same with all of the weird timings. It's not what they're saying when they're saying it. It's the fact that the jump cut to it. There needed to be some sort of transition or lead-in for it. And apart from anything else, it would give it a more emotional resonance to the moment, because he'd, like you say, he'd be looking at his home like wrecked and ruined, knowing that it can be rebuilt, and thinking, yeah, we have a lot of waterbenders. The Seven Tribe doesn't now. And then that then leading into maybe Katara walks up to him and he says, "I've just made a decision" or whatever. It's just, it would add to it, and it wouldn't exactly take up much screen time either.
No, that should have been.
I mean,
there.
As far as they know, they haven't had any connection or communication with their sister tribe, so they don't even. I feel like they wouldn't know that the Fire Nation took all their waterbenders. That would probably take Katara saying like, "Yeah, we don't have waterbenders because the Fire Nation took them all."
In general, I mean,
that's
giving him that like.
Katara will definitely mention it by this point, but beforehand, you're right. Before they turn up, they wouldn't know.
At the very least, they underestimated or just didn't ever wonder about the level of destruction that went on down there, because Yue was surprised to learn that they didn't have palaces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and the fact that we don't know what they ever
admit.
did have, how much was just them being destroyed and how much they hadn't built up in the first place. It's very left kind of in the dark.
They had to have something going on for them down there, though, because like they were either that or they just were happy with like a simpler life, because they had some pretty powerful benders down there at one point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's interesting.
Definitely would have made sense for them to have the same sort of fortress if they could.
Yeah,
if they wanted to, because they could.
It's like the moment like early on when like they all band together to stop like one of the fireballs, like they make like a giant like spout of water and freeze it to like catch one of the fireballs. It's interesting callback to like the way that they found that ship in the Southern Tribe, which was like raised out of like the water. Like that would have been quite the feat to see.
I mean, they do that even in the battle. They raise up the ship when Aang takes out the first catapult. Yeah, they have that exact iconic kind of moment.
That's true.
So,
yeah.
So there's all that kind of parallels, and it makes perfect sense. If they wanted to have this, fortress capital in the south, they could have done. It's just whether or not they kind of were inclined to. They may have preferred the more rural lifestyle, even though they have this abundance of crafting material and the people to wield it. But yeah, we have that close up.
I also like the Iroh Zuko last scene where he's like, you know what, it's okay to rest. Like a man can rest, and I like that.
Yeah, a man needs his rest.
Zuko's been through a lot, like through the book.
It's also a something he says more than once that comes up at least 3 times that I can remember. Not all in this season, but he says that I think even in flashbacks to Zuko. So yeah, it's like a common part of their relationship. That saying.
I love that little animation of, I don't know if you go back and watch it, just the way Zuko lays down. He's just like.
Yeah, he's like, flops onto his back because he's gonna be feeling the exhaustion of everything he's done just in that day alone, and also the emotional and sort of spiritual exhaustion he's going through. This is the moment where he's kind of letting go of that Avatar chase to an extent, and he's just kind of flopping back, and he's like, oh god, I just want to stop. I'm tired, and it's a layered meaning. It's not just pure physical exhaustion.
Yeah, and like we said about the spiritual stuff too, because he's starting to learn also just from Zhao's mistakes too, like seeing how far he went, and he's like, wow, like if I continue like being so gung ho about getting the Avatar, and I lose sight of like what I really want or what I should want from life, that could be me. You know what I mean? Like he's got a lot on his mind that he has to evolve through the next 2 books.
Absolutely.
Love.
And it's also interesting that like as much as he's grown, his situation really hasn't changed from the first time we saw him. Yeah.
But his character has, so it doesn't matter.
Well, I just talking about how it leaves us poised for new stories. It wasn't a criticism of him.
No. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Is like that's what's cool about it is that they can do that in this particular story. Is like it almost. I mean, well, not even almost. It doesn't matter. They would write him in a way that his, like you said, his situation doesn't change, but he does. So that's awesome.
And the physical changes come next season as well. This is the point where they've proven they can do it without the physical reliance on physical changes, and then they do bring that in to add more layers and more kind of a maturity or the physical growth side of things.
Which makes sense for also the timeline growth too, because for someone's hair to grow, that means some time has to go on fast.
Yeah, precisely. And that's always been very believable as well. The fact that they take note of that and how it develops. It's very cool.
And then with Aang later as well.
Yeah, but yeah, we get the gang looking kind of to the new horizon, standing on the ice wall. Looking out onto the bright new sunny day. Immediately followed up with the introduction of Azula, who has a mission. Gotta love her entrance.
Yeah.
Kneeling before the
It's
fire.
interesting.
Sinister smell place.
Yeah, it's like I remember thinking like, whatever, I don't care. Like when I was a kid, because
who cares about this new person?
I was like whatever, and then she turns out to be who she is. You watch that unfold, and it's great. But yeah,
One
interesting
of those people who
tease.
actually pays off.
I feel like it's always so hard because in general, when people are like, oh, who's your favorite character from Avatar? I'm like, I love them all. It's one of those shows where everyone is so great. All the characters are written well. It's like there's someone who represents like every type of person you fucking know. But I feel like Azula is that close, like third place. Because I don't know. I just love Azula. It's just something that I can relate to. I won't get into it.
Wait, my guess for you is Zuko top Azula. Is that what it is?
Top? No. God damn it. Top is like right here to Zuko, and it's like Azula. So
I have to rank them differently, subjectively and objectively, because obviously Zuko is the best character, but he's not my favorite in personal enjoyment all the time.
Wow, really? That he aligns with both of those for me for the objective and subjective.
Cal's a Toph fan. I've tried to talk him out of it.
I'm a Toph fan.
Yeah.
Wait, you say you're a Toph fan?
Toph and
subjectively.
Yeah.
There's no question that she has less like character development. There's not even a competition. I just personally enjoy the character.
No, she's cool.
I relate to those two the most, but like for almost separate reasons. It's like if like you could put their character into one person, which I've thought of doing, like that would be like what I feel is like me. You know what I mean? Like there are their struggles and like the things they go through, and I'm like, just put them together. Just love it.
We'll get more into this kind of stuff too with the book one review. Also, anyone in the comments too, if you guys wanted to talk about anything in specific in terms of the overall review, we're going to be doing that after in the live. We're doing that live as well. I forgot to mention that.
Yes, we'll be covering that.
I forgot. Is that the next thing we're doing that's live, or are we doing the commentary?
Depends.
Yeah. Oh no, we're doing the season 1 review first live. All right, cool. Sorry. So I had to mention that to see if anyone in the comments had anything they wanted us to talk about in an overall scope type thing.
Yeah. And the date for that will be, and the date and time for that will be going up later date. We'll put a little mini announcement video letting you know when to expect that and when you can be up for it. And we're hoping to see you there, and it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's us concluding our Fanalyses of these 2 episodes, and as a result, book 1. We've actually completed book 1 of Avatar, guys.
We finished something. Yeah,
we finished something for the first time. We still got to do
I
this
came
overall
back
thing.
just in time.
Book 2 begins sometime in the future. I'm looking forward to it. Glad we could get this done. Let us know what you think of these 2 parts and the series as a whole, I guess, in the comment section down below. Anything we've not covered to the extent you would have liked, or something we've missed entirely. And look forward to talking to it with it. Look forward to talking about it with you. I'm Retty4, and I still don't have an outro.
Yes, he does. That's it. Great Jedi 91. Take care.
That's fun, Battle. Remember, be water, my friends.
Turk McGurk, stay flaming.
Goodbye.